Her wolf bounty was her fated mate, but his brother claimed her too. The forest swallowed sound. Julia moved through it like a shadow with a heartbeat, boots silent on damp earth, breath thin as mist in the pre-dawn dark. The pines rose around her, skeletal and black, their trunks stacked tight enough to block most of the moonlight. Every now and then, silver slipped through the canopy and slicked across her leather jacket, a moving stripe that announced her to anything watching. She knew something was watching. Her quarry always felt like this, like they were already looking back down the scope at her. But tonight the sensation sat differently under her skin, like static before lightning. Damien Kade, rogue werewolf, former enforcer, wanted by the Northbridge Pack Council for illegal hunts, for breaking treaty lines, for leaving bodies where humans could find them. Price: more than she'd ever gotten for a single mark. Enough to buy herself out of the city, enough to erase the last of her father's debts, enough to stop living in motels with loaded shotguns propped against the door. Worth it. Julia stopped behind a thick pine, exhaled once, and raised her binoculars. Up ahead, the forest opened into a small clearing, an oval of fog and cold air where the trees held back, like they were scared of what stood inside. Him. He was exactly where the intel said he'd be, centered in the clearing like it was built for him, head tipped back, eyes closed, bare feet in the moss. No shirt, just low-slung black pants that made the hard lines of his torso impossible to ignore. Even at this distance she saw the scars, pale ridges slashing across tanned skin, claw marks that hadn't healed smooth. Damien Kade, former golden boy of the Kade line, had turned into something sharp and dangerous out here. He looked human enough right now, but the air around him throbbed with that wrongness she'd learned to recognize, long before she ever met a real wolf. The stories had come first. Her father's muttered curses at the kitchen table, his scarred hand closing around a bottle, the word monster said like a prayer and an accusation. Julia lowered the binoculars, thumb slipping over the safety on her tranq gun. Silver-loaded darts, wolf's bane. Enough to drop even a big bastard like him, according to the alchemist who'd sold them to her for nearly double market price. She counted heartbeats. 1, 2, 3. Just breathing. Just another job. Just another monster. Move. She stepped out from behind the tree. The moment she crossed the invisible edge of the clearing, his eyes snapped open. They were wrong. That was the first coherent thought that sliced through the sudden rush of adrenaline. They were too bright, too pale, a glacial gray that almost glowed in the thin light, ringed by faint gold at the center. Predatory, she'd expected. Cold. Instead, the look that hit her was shocked. Then something hit harder. It slammed into her chest like a physical blow, knocking the air out of her lungs. Scents exploded around her, layered and thick, pine sap and wet earth and him. Smoky. Warm. A hint of iron, rain on hot asphalt, something dark and wild that curled its fingers into the center of her and pulled. She staggered to a stop, gun lifting automatically, but her hands weren't steady anymore. The forest blurred at the edges. Her heart trotted into a sprint, not with fear but with some feral recognition she didn't understand. He took a single step toward her. "Stop right there," she snapped. Her voice sounded strange in her own ears, hoarse, roughened. He froze, but not because she'd ordered it. Something like horror flickered across his face, like he was seeing a ghost. "Human," he breathed. "Yeah," she said. "The one holding the gun? Hands where I can see them." He didn't obey. Instead, his nostrils flared. His pupils blew wide, eating the pale frost of his irises until only a thin ring remained. Julia's fingers clenched around the grip. There was a subject line in the dossier she hadn't taken seriously. a footnote tossed in by some bored pack bureaucrat. Unconfirmed rumor. Damien Kade has refused all proposed pack matches. Suspected difficulty accepting bond. Stop moving, she repeated, but it came out softer, dragged to the ground by the weight pressing into her chest. Her skin buzzed. Every hair on her arms lifted beneath the leather. He whispered something low in a language she didn't know, then louder, strangled. Moon, take me. No. He took another step toward her. She fired. The dart flew clean and straight for his shoulder. He moved faster than she could track. One moment it was heading for him. The next he'd twisted, hand snatching the dart out of the air. The motion bared his teeth. Too sharp, too white. Bad idea, he growled. Julia raised the gun again, already reaching for another dart with her offhand. Her vision tunneled to his chest, to the point between his ribs where a shot might slow even a shifter long enough for her to. The scent hit her harder this time, like it had been muted and now some cruel hand had torn the dam open. Her knees threatened to buckle. She could smell fear, her own, bitter and sharp under her tongue. But underlying it, thick and insistent, was that same wild, smoky warmth that belonged to him. It wrapped around her, slid into her lungs, threaded through her blood. Her pulse stuttered. The world narrowed to his gaze. Don't, he said quietly. It wasn't a threat. It sounded like a man begging somebody not to jump. Drop the dart, Julia managed. He stared at her for another heartbeat. Then, slowly, he opened his hand and let the dart fall into the moss. The choice scraped something raw in his expression. What's your name? He asked. Cold slid up her spine. You already know mine. I'm sure they pinned it to your file when they issued the bounty. He shook his head once. I never read the name. A humorless laugh burst out of her. Scared I'd show up in your dreams? His eyes darkened. The air thickened between them. You have no idea what I'm scared of right now. He stepped closer. She should have fired again. She should have aimed for his thigh, his side, anything. Instead, her muscles locked in place. Everything in her screamed at once. Danger and safety, run and don't you dare move. He stopped an arm's length away. Up close, he was even worse. Taller than she'd realized, broad shoulders stretching the seams of his jacket, that forest heat scent coiling around her in almost visible tendrils. I smelled you before you stepped into the clearing, he said quietly. Thought I was losing my mind. Congratulations, she rasped. You are. His gaze dropped to her mouth, lingered, then jerked back up. His throat worked around a swallow. Fate is cruel, he said. I always knew that. But this is obscene. Her laugh came out wrong. You're saying that like you're the victim and not the guy with a price on his head. He flinched like she'd slapped him. You're here to collect. That is usually what bounty hunters do, yeah. He scanned her face, searching. For what? She didn't know. Whatever he saw made some decision settle behind his eyes. Run, he said. What? Turn around and walk away, human. They'll send someone else. Someone older, someone meaner. You can tell yourself the money wasn't worth the risk and sleep at night. Not really a sleep-easy kind of girl. You will be, he said, voice dropping rough. If you bond to me, it'll quiet everything. The nightmares, the fear. Her heart jerked against her ribs. What did you just say? He breathed in like it hurt. You're my mate. The word cracked through the clearing like thunder. Julia's hand tensed on the trigger. Because that wasn't possible. Mates were wolf to wolf. That's what all the stories said. Shifters bonded to their own kind, their own packs. They didn't tether themselves to humans, and if they tried, it never held. Human blood didn't hum with moon magic. Her father had said that too, in one of his more sober moments. We're invisible to them, Jules. That's the only magic we get. Wrong girl, she said tightly. Try again in the next clearing. His jaw ticked. I wish to the black sky that were true. The pull between them yanked tight, like some invisible cord snapped taut. The edges of her vision blurred. The only thing in focus was his face. She took a step back. The bond, if that's what this was, yanked harder. Stop, she hissed. I'm not doing anything, he shot back. Then what the hell is this? Fate. And you just... what? Accept that? Because some cosmic matchmaking algorithm flipped a switch? His lips curled. I tried ignoring it once, Hunter. It burned my life down. I'm not making that mistake again. That pulled her up short. For an instant, she saw something raw behind his eyes. Grief, old and scabbed over, but not healed. In that pause, the forest changed. A faint crunch of weight on leaves sounded behind her. Another. Another. The wind shifted, pushing new scents into the clearing. Gun oil, human sweat, cheap soap. Julia swore under her breath. She hadn't been the only one following the bounty. Damien's head whipped toward the sound, his nostrils flared. You led them to me. No, she snapped. I don't work with others. They must have been tailing me. Pack hunters? Freelancers? She flicked a quick glance at the tree line. Shapes moved in the mist. 4, 5 men, rifles up. The kind who shoot first and ask for proof of death later. Damien's shoulders squared. Something savage slid over his features, smoothing them into the cold, controlled mask of a predator. You're between us, he said. Get behind me. Julia's pride reared. I'm not... The first shot cracked through the clearing. Instinct yanked her down. She dropped to a knee as a bullet hissed over her head and slammed into the tree behind her, spraying bark. Silver. She smelled it in the air, acrid and bright. Damien roared. It wasn't human. The sound vibrated through her bones, low and murderous. In the next breath, he was no longer at her side. He hit the tree line in a blur of motion. For a second, his body warped at the edges, bones rearranging under skin, muscles thickening. His hands curled into claws mid-stride, a half-shift. Julia had seen photographs of wolves before, but seeing that change in motion was something else. There was nothing graceful about it. It was violent, brutal, like his own body was a cage he fought to break. He crashed into the first gunman, and the forest erupted into chaos. Shots, shouts, the wet crunch of impact. Her training kicked in, shoving the strange bond ache aside. Julia rolled behind a fallen log, popped up long enough to fire a tranq dart into the nearest hunter's neck, then dropped again as another bullet bit into the wood inches from her face. "Damien!" someone yelled. "We just want the wolf!" Right, Julia thought. Just the wolf. The wolf whose scent still wrapped around her like a chain, whose life tugged against some new, fragile thread in her chest. If he died here, what happened to her? The thought landed with an ugly, heavy certainty. She didn't want to find out. Something moved to her left. A hunter creeping through the fog, muzzle of his rifle swinging toward the clearing center where Damien's growls had gone deeper, more animal. Julia aimed, fired. The dart punched into his shoulder. He managed a choked, "What the?" before crashing down. Breath ripping in and out, she scanned for the others. 2 were down. Damien's work, by the look of the blood and twisted limbs. 1 was dragging himself backward, leaving a smear on the moss. Another was behind her. She sensed him half a second before cold metal kissed the base of her skull. "Drop it," the man snarled. "Gun on the ground, sweetheart, or I ventilate that pretty head." She went still, fingers flexing around the grip. "Last chance. Word is you're worth a bonus dead, bounty girl." Julia smiled without humor. "You should negotiate a better contract." "Shut up and..." Damien's scent hit her like a storm front a split second before a hand clamped around the barrel of the gun at her neck. The hunter yelped. His weapon jerked away as Damien wrenched it from his grip, metal squealing like it was made of tinfoil. In the same motion, Damien slammed the man into a tree with enough force to rattle branches overhead. "Point another weapon at her," Damien growled, "and I'll decorate this forest with what's left of your spine." The hunter whimpered, face bloodless. Julia pushed up from her crouch, heart pounding so hard she felt it in her throat. "Enough," she snapped. Damien's head whipped toward her, eyes blazing. "They were going to kill you." "Maybe," she said, "but he's no good to anyone dead." "Good to who?" he snarled. "You." "Maybe." They stared at each other over the pale-faced man pinned to the tree. For a moment the only sound was the ragged rush of breath, the distant drip of water from leaves. Julia swallowed. "Let him go." His lip curled. "Ask nicer." The bond between them pulled taut, a thread dragged over flame. Julia ground her teeth. "Damien, let him go." Something in her tone must have translated into whatever language mates used, because his grip loosened. He stepped back, giving the man space to slump to the ground. "Run," Damien said. The hunter didn't need telling twice. He scrambled to his feet and bolted, crashing through the underbrush in a panic. Silence crashed in after him. Julia holstered her tranq gun with hands that only shook a little. She did a quick survey of the clearing. 3 men down, either unconscious or dead. Another fled. The fog was thicker now, curling around the bodies like white fire. "Congratulations," she said, turning back to Damien. "You just made the bounty on your head even juicier. Then you'll be rich when you collect it." He stood there, chest heaving, shirt shredded across one side. Blood, human blood, not his, streaked his arms. The half-shift had retreated, claws blunted back into fingers, teeth dulling, but his eyes were still wolf-bright. Julia stepped closer, ignoring the way her body screamed at her to either run into his arms or run away. "You knew they were out here," she said. "Didn't you?" He shrugged one massive shoulder. "They've been closing in for days. Thought I could lure them away from the roads. Fewer witnesses." "Heroic," she said dryly. "I don't care about them," he said, nodding toward the fallen men. "I care about what happens if the Pack Council realizes I'm still in their territory. Because you broke their rules. Because I know things they'd rather stay buried." A twig snapped at the edge of the clearing. Both of them spun. This time, the scent was different. Not human. Clean fur and wind and something crisp, like frost on stone. Familiar to Damien, judging by the way his posture shifted from predator to wary tension. A figure stepped out of the fog. He looked like Damien. That was the first hit. Same build, same sharp-cut jaw, same winter wolf coloring. But where Damien was storm, this one was ice. His hair was a shade lighter, cut shorter. His leather jacket zipped up to his throat as if he cared about things like staying neat in a firefight. His eyes were darker too, a deeper gray, nearly black around the edges. They flicked over the scene, cataloging bodies, broken weapons, Julia's stance. They lingered on Damien, softened for a heartbeat, then landed on her. The world tilted. Julia's breath slammed out of her. Not again, she thought wildly. But it was happening again. The scent, the pull, the invisible hand wrapping around her spine and yanking her forward. Different flavor this time. Colder, sharper, like the air before a blizzard, but underneath it all the same thread of Kade wolf. Her heartbeat tripled. Damien swore softly beside her. "Moon-damned hell." The newcomer stared at Julia like he'd just walked into a room expecting an execution and found a miracle instead. "Damien," he said, voice low, "tell me that's not what I think it is." Damien scrubbed a bloody hand over his face. "Justin, this is Julia. Bounty hunter. Human. The universe's idea of a joke." Justin's mouth curved in something that wasn't quite a smile. "Your mate," he said. Damien's gaze cut to him, sharp. "Yes." Justin's eyes didn't leave hers. "Funny," he murmured. "She smells like mine too." Julia had been shot at, stabbed, choked, thrown through a bar window, and once dropped off a second-story balcony into a dumpster. None of that compared to the sheer disorienting wrongness of what her body was doing now. 2 wolves, 2 scents, 2 pulls, equal and opposite, like magnets pressed against her from both sides. Her knees wanted to buckle again. She locked them. "No," she said, because that was the only word left. Justin lifted both hands palm out like he was trying not to spook a wild animal. His gaze never left her face, but his voice was for his brother. "You didn't tell me the hunters had a human in the mix." "She's not with them," Damien said roughly. "She's with the council." "Ouch!" Justin's eyes flicked over her gear, the faint print of a sigil near her cuff. "Contract with the Kade pack?" "Independent," Julia snapped, glad for something normal to hold on to. "I don't work for any pack. I work for money." "And someone paid you to drag my idiot brother back in chains," Justin said. "More or less." Justin's gaze went to Damien. "You didn't think to mention the part where she's bonded to you?" "It just happened," Damien growled. "Literally minutes ago." Justin looked unimpressed. "The moon doesn't just happen, brother." They were both talking like she wasn't standing 3 feet away trying to keep her heart from beating out of her chest. "Stop," Julia said sharply. They did. 2 sets of wolf eyes pinned her in place. "I don't care how you people talk about fate or the moon or whatever supernatural garbage this is," she said. This isn't." Words failed. Her body was happily overruling her logic, leaning subtly toward both of them like a plant trying to find sunlight. "You feel it," Justin said quietly. It wasn't a question. She bared her teeth at him. "I feel like I walked into a gas leak." Damien's mouth twitched, tension cracking around the edges. "She's charming." Julia shot him a glare. "You're bleeding." He glanced down, apparently just now noticing the slash across his side. He'd taken a bullet graze during the fight. Blood soaked the shredded fabric. "It'll heal," he said. Silver had been in the air, but maybe that one hadn't been laced. Justin stepped closer to his brother, eyes scanning the wound. "You're reckless." "You're late," Damien snapped back. "Traffic." "Through the forest?" Justin gave a small shrug. "You'd be surprised." Julia stared between them. "Family reunion later. Right now I need space and answers." She backed up a step out of immediate arm's reach. The bond stretched, an elastic band pulling at her ribs. It hurt, just enough to make her grit her teeth. "Start with the basics," she said. "Why is there a price on your head, Damien? And why does the council want you brought in alive?" Damien hesitated. Justin's gaze sharpened. "You didn't tell her?" Justin asked. "In the 5 minutes since I met her?" Damien shot back. "No." "Tell me what?" Julia demanded. Justin's eyes went flinty. "That Damien didn't kill those humans." Silence dropped heavy. "Humans died," Julia said. 6 of them. Hikers on the North Ridge. Torn apart like wolves got to them," Justin finished softly. "That's the story the council sold, yes?" "Photographs don't lie," she said. Justin's gaze turned colder. "Photographs show bodies. They don't show who dragged them through the trees to stage them near our territory line." Julia's stomach turned. "You're saying—" "I'm saying," Damien cut in, voice low and dangerous, "that the council needed a scapegoat when a rogue pack started hunting too close to the city. I was already a problem. I asked too many questions, pushed back too often. So they stitched a story together and pinned it to my name." Julia searched his face. There was anger there, yes, and bitter resignation, but not the hungry pride she'd seen in real predators who enjoyed what they did. "Why not run?" she asked. "Leave town. Cross the border. Disappear in some other pack's territory." "You think they'd let me?" Damien laughed without humor. "The Kade Council doesn't lose things. They hunt them until there's nothing left but bones and a cautionary tale." Justin nodded. "They sent you, after all." Heat crawled up Julia's neck. "I didn't know any of that when I took the contract." "But you know now," Damien said, stepping closer. The bond tugged, eager. "So put the gun away and walk out of this forest. Let them think I killed you too. I'll deal with the fallout." Justin tilted his head. "That's a lot of dead bounty hunters, brother. You'll start a trend." Damien's jaw clenched. "They won't find her body. They'll just assume she gave up and ran." Julia laughed, short and sharp. "You have a high opinion of my survival instincts." "I have an opinion of you," he shot back. "And it doesn't include you in chains at the council's feet." Her chest tightened. "You don't know me," she said. "I know enough." His gaze dragged over her, assessing, yes, but also something else, something that made her skin go hot. "You smell like steel and rain and fear you never show anyone. You smell like mine." Julia flinched. The word landed too hard. Justin moved then, circling them both with easy, predatory grace. His scent brushed her other side, cooler, more controlled, but no less intense. "Two bonds," he mused. "You always did say you wanted what was impossible, Damien." "No," Damien said immediately. "Not this." "What's wrong?" Justin's mouth curved. "Afraid of sharing?" Julia's brain hiccuped. "Excuse me?" Justin glanced at her, eyes shuttered now. He looked calmer than his brother, but the tension in his shoulders gave him away. "Mates are rare enough," he said. "Dual bonds like this, human at the center, two wolves. It's unheard of. The moon doesn't make mistakes, though." "You don't know that," Damien snapped. "She could be my mate and you're just smelling what you are?" Justin's gaze flared. "No, she calls to me too. You feel it. Don't lie." They stared at each other, something electric and dangerous sparking in the air. Two predators circling the same piece of prey, and knowing they couldn't kill each other to win. Julia's patience snapped. "Both of you shut up," she said. They froze. "This is my life you're dissecting," she went on. "Not a philosophical exercise. I don't agree to anything just because your moon says so. I don't belong to anyone." Damien's expression softened by a fraction. "No one said you did." "You just called me mine." He exhaled. "I shouldn't have. I'm not used to humans with opinions." "Get used to it." Justin's mouth twitched. "I like her." Julia shot him a look. "You're not helping." He held up his hands again, that same careful no-threat gesture. "All right. No more moon talk. No more possessive nonsense. Let's focus on logistics." "Logistics," she repeated flatly. "You came here to collect my brother," Justin said. "You found more trouble than you bargained for. Your contract is now compromised, not just by new information, but because the council will gut you if they think you're tied to him. They don't like loose ends. They like obedience." He took another step closer. The bond tugged, but this time she braced for it and rode the sensation out, refusing to sway. "I'm offering an alternative," Justin said. "Come with us instead. Hear the full story. Decide which side actually deserves your bullets." "Us?" Julia repeated. "Where, exactly, is us?" Damien's shoulders stiffened. "Don't." "She'll find out sooner or later," Justin said. "Better it be from us." Julia folded her arms. "Find out what?" "We're not lone wolves," Justin said. "Not anymore. There's a group of us. Wolves who've had enough of the council's rot. Rogues. Outcasts. Anyone who refuses to play by the old rules. We're building something different." "A resistance," she said. His mouth curved. If you like dramatic words. And you're hiding in the same forest the council hunts in because it's ours, Damien said, voice rough. It always has been. I'm not giving it up because a few old men in nice suits decided I'm inconvenient. Julia thought of the hunters, the bodies on the moss, the way the council rep had smiled thinly when he'd slid the contract across her cheap motel table. Bring him in alive, he'd said. We want to make an example of him. Not, we want justice. Not, we want answers. An example. The scar on her father's arm burned in her memory. The night he'd come home torn and bloody, muttering about wolves in the trees and men in suits who'd told him he'd imagined it. How they'd canceled his disability claim, how he'd drunk himself into oblivion instead of fighting back. She'd watched men in suits crush him. She'd sworn no one would ever do that to her. Say, I believe you, she said slowly. What then? I can't just vanish. They know my face. Justin nodded. I'm aware, which is why we need to make it look like you switched sides loudly enough that no one can accuse you of being a secret asset later. Damien frowned. What are you talking about? Use her, Justin said simply. Send a message. Drag the council into the open. You're not using her as bait, Damien snarled. Justin's gaze flicked to him. We don't have luxury pieces to discard, brother. We have weapons and we have targets. She can be both. If she's willing. Julia raised a hand. You know I'm standing right here, yes? Justin's eyes met hers again. Yes. That's why I'm asking you, not him. Do you want out from under their thumb or not? Damien swore under his breath. Justin. You brought me out here to help you, Justin said, suddenly sharp. I did. Now we have a bigger problem than a tainted warrant. The council clearly knows where you are. They're sending mercs instead of pack enforcers. That means they're hiding something from our own people. If we don't hit back now, they'll just keep tightening the net. He nodded at Julia. She is our leverage. Leverage how? Julia asked. Justin's eyes glittered. You're their favorite kind of deniable asset. Human, disposable, good at your job. You show up at their next meeting in chains next to Damien, covered in fake blood. Talk about how he slaughtered your whole team but you still got him. They'll take you in. Listen. They'll be smug. And while they're busy congratulating themselves, your people hit them, she finished. Exactly. Damien's nostrils flared. Too risky. Everything is too risky now, Justin said quietly. The difference is whether we choose the risk or let it choose us. Julia listened to them argue, the words washing over her like waves. Underneath, the bonds pulsed, two separate threads woven through her chest, throbbing in rhythm with her heartbeat. They weren't asking politely. They were demanding she decide what she was going to be to them. Weapon, mate, bounty hunter, traitor. Her father's voice whispered in the back of her mind. We're invisible to them, Jules. Apparently not. The council lied to me, she said at last. They said you tore those people apart for fun. Damien's jaw flexed. I wasn't even in the state that night. They didn't show me all the photographs, she went on. Just the ones that made you look like a monster. That's what they do, Justin said. Julia looked down at her hands. She'd crawled out of poverty by being useful to men with power. She'd taken their dirty money and told herself she was doing the world a favor by cleaning up their messes with precision and minimal collateral damage. Monsters for hire, monsters on leashes. She'd convinced herself she wasn't one of them. This job was supposed to be the last big score. Pay off the last of the debt, buy a piece of someplace quiet, vanish. Instead, the universe had handed her two furious werewolves and a bond she couldn't ignore. She holstered her gun fully, the gesture louder than any promise. All right, she said. I'll hear you out. No guarantees beyond that. Damien's shoulders eased a fraction. The tension in his jaw didn't. Justin inclined his head, something like respect in his eyes. That's all we can ask for now. He turned, gesturing toward the deeper forest. Our camp's this way. It's hidden and warded. You'll be safe there. Save it, Julia cut in. I'm not worried about safe. I'm worried about answers. Justin's mouth quirked. You're going to fit in just fine. She stepped forward, crossing the line between them. The bonds yanked taut on both sides, protesting the change, then settled into a strange, thrumming equilibrium as they moved together into the fog. Behind her, the bodies of the hunters cooled in the moss, proof that one chapter of her life had already closed. Ahead, the forest thickened around three shadows moving as one. The path to the camp wound deeper into the forest, through gullies filled with mist and over slick roots that tried to trip her. Justin led. Damien fell back beside her like a silent guardian, and the air between the three of them hummed like a live wire. Every now and then, Julia caught Damien watching her from the corner of his eye, as if verifying she was still there, still breathing. It would have been sweet if it didn't make that stupid bond thrash harder. You can stop looming, she said finally. He blinked. I'm not looming. You're 6'4" and built like a wall. Existence equals looming. Justin snorted ahead of them. Damien's mouth curled slightly. Fine. I'll walk behind you. Like hell you will, she muttered. I'm not turning my back on either of you until I know exactly what game I've walked into. Fair, Justin called over his shoulder. But you should be more worried about what you're walking toward. Comforting, she said. Justin pushed through a curtain of underbrush. Beyond it, the forest shifted subtly. The trees grew in tighter clusters, trunks crisscrossed with faint silver lines, sigils carved into the bark, glowing dully in the half-light. Magic. She felt it like pressure in her ears, like the air thickening into syrup. Wards, Damien said quietly. Keep humans out mostly. Blur paths, tangle directions. Unless you know the way, you walk in circles until you collapse. Reassuring, Julia replied. Don't worry, Justin said. You've got us. Two strangers with a direct financial incentive to lie to me, she said. I'm thrilled. Justin glanced back with a sideways smile. You're not going to drop the bounty then? Not yet, she said. Depends on how convincing your sob story is. Damien's jaw tightened. It's not a sob story, Hunter. It's a massacre waiting to happen if we don't stop it. Then you'd better make that part clear too. They walked on. The camp revealed itself gradually. First, she saw the smoke. Thin gray threads rising between the trees. Then the shapes. Canvas tents tucked under low branches, a scattering of rough-hewn cabins further in, tarps rigged between trunks to keep off rain. A dozen people moved among them. Wolves. All of them. She could smell it now. The layered scents mixing fur, sweat, and magic. Conversations died as they stepped into view. Eyes tracked Julia like she was a fox in a henhouse. Back already? A woman called from near a fire pit. She was tall and rangy, with dark hair braided tight against her skull and a jagged scar across one cheek. Her gaze flicked over Damien, checking for injuries, then slid to Julia. The air changed. Suspicion sharpened. Company? Justin said lightly. Everyone play nice. Who's the human? The woman asked flatly. Julia, Damien said. Bounty hunter. She's with us. For now. With us? The woman repeated skeptically. Does with us know how many times your name has almost gotten us killed this month? Temper, Rhea, Justin said. You'll scare her off. She doesn't look scared, Rhea noted, studying Julia. Julia met her gaze evenly. Terrified on the inside. Very good at hiding it. A few chuckles rippled through the camp. Rhea's mouth twitched. Fine, she said. Long as she doesn't shoot anyone, she can stay. For now. Julia lifted her hands. No promises if someone points a gun at me first. That's pack law already, Rhea said. Welcome to the revolution, I guess. She turned back to her work, dismissing them. Justin nodded toward a small cabin at the camp's edge. We can talk there. Less likely to be interrupted by people offering their opinion about my life choices. Your life choices? Damien muttered. She's my... Justin arched a brow. Something you want to share with the group, brother? Damien snapped his mouth shut. Julia followed them to the cabin. It was rough but sturdy, built from logs and patched with salvaged boards. Inside, it smelled like cedar and wolf, and faintly of coffee. Justin shut the door behind them. The sudden quiet after the noise of the camp made Julia's skin prickle. Sit, he said, gesturing to a chair. You look like you're about to fall over. I'm not. She stopped. Her legs were shaking. Adrenaline crash, she told herself. Bonds, her body whispered. Too much in too little time. She sat. Damien leaned against the wall near the window, arms folded. Justin paced once, twice, then settled opposite her, hands braced on the table between them. All right, he said. Here's the truth, as fast and clean as I can give it. He sketched it out. The rogue pack slipping into Kade territory. The first bodies found too close to the treaty lines. The council's decision to cover it up rather than risk exposing their world to humans. They blamed Damien, Justin said. He was convenient, powerful enough to be a threat, stubborn enough that a lot of the elders already disliked him, and he'd been vocal about changing how we do things. How? Julia asked. No more secret hunts on the edges of human towns, Damien said. No more punishing wolves who fall in love outside their pack. No more forced bonds. His gaze flicked to her for that last part, quickly, like he hadn't meant to. The council doesn't like change, Justin said. So they painted him as the villain, told the pack he'd gone rogue, started sending whispers out to merc circles. They wanted him dead or in chains, but they didn't want to dirty their own hands. Julia digested that, fingers drumming on the table. You have proof? She asked. Anything that isn't just your word? Justin didn't seem offended. Some. Not enough to take them down alone, but enough to show you we're not lying. He pulled a small drive from his pocket, sliding it across the table. Copy of security footage from the Northridge outpost the night those humans died. Julia's fingers stopped tapping. Outpost? She asked. Every territory line has one, Damien said. Council keeps them quiet. Cameras, motion detectors, all the toys. That's how we know the rogues crossed in. And you got this how? She asked, nodding at the drive. Justin's mouth curved. We have friends in low places. And high ones, Damien added. A few council aides who don't like the taste of blood in their coffee. Julia pocketed the drive, heartbeat picking up. I'll need to see this myself. Of course, Justin said. We've got a generator and an old laptop. I'll set it up. He turned away, then paused, hand on the doorframe. Julia, he said without looking back, the council isn't going to stop sending people like you. If you walk away now, they'll just throw more money at someone else. If I walk away, I live, she said. That's not nothing. Damien made a low sound, almost a growl. You think they'll let you live knowing what you know? That I met you? She shot back. Plenty of hunters have met marks and failed. You felt the bond, he said softly. They'll smell it on you. Her stomach dropped. Smell what? The pack's magic, Justin said. Our scent clings when the bond snaps. Humans won't notice, but wolves will. The council will know you're not just a hunter anymore. You're an unaligned mate. That makes you dangerous. Why? She asked. Damien's eyes darkened. Because mated wolves fight harder. Because they're harder to control. Because if they hurt you to punish me and I live, the whole territory burns, Justin finished calmly. Your leverage whether you want to be or not. Silence pressed in. Julia stared at the rough wood grain of the table, every survival instinct she had screaming in different directions. Run. Stay. Shoot them both, and dig a hole. Demand more proof. Kiss them until the bond stops hurting. She clenched her jaw. Fine, she said. Then we make sure they can't use me. Damien straightened. How? She met his eyes. We give them what they want, she said. They want you in. Chains? We chain you. In public. On their doorstep. On my terms. Justin's eyebrows climbed. You're suggesting we move up the schedule. What schedule? She asked. He smiled, quick and sharp. The one where we drag our dear counsel out into the sunlight and show everyone what they really are. They spent the next hour hammering out the bones of a plan. It was ugly. It relied on a stomach-turning number of things going right. It hinged on the council underestimating human stubbornness and overestimating their own control of the battlefield. In other words, it had a chance. You'll go in first, Justin said, pacing in front of the table. Alone. No gear except what they gave you when they hired you. You say you tracked Damien, that you took heavy losses, that only you and one other hunter made it out. Who's the other? Julia asked. Justin's gaze flicked to Damien. Our favorite martyr. Damien snorted. You wish. You'll be in restraints, Justin went on. Silver cuffs. Real ones, not fakes. Otherwise they'll smell the lie, but they'll be dampened. Rhea can weave the spell. Enough to look convincing, not enough to actually cook your skin off. Appreciated, Damien said dryly. And the part where they don't just shoot me on sight? Julia asked. They need you, Justin said. You've delivered what none of their own hunters could. They'll want to know how. You play into their ego. Flatter them. Drop a few hints that you might be open to more permanent employment. I hate this already, she muttered. You're good at pretending, Damien said quietly. She glanced at him, surprised. You don't know that. I watched you in the clearing, he said. You were terrified and you smiled anyway. That's pretending. Her throat tightened. Okay, she said. Say they buy it. They take Damien. Maybe throw him in some cell until they can parade him. When does your revolution actually start? During the hearing, Justin said. They'll want a spectacle. Public confession. Trial by combat. Something bloody enough to keep the pack in line. We hit them there. With what? She asked. You've got a dozen wolves and some tents of rebellion out there. The council has enforcers, money, guards. We have the truth, Damien said. Truth doesn't stop bullets, she said. Bullets don't stop a pack that finally realizes it's being used, Justin countered. We're not trying to blow the council chamber sky high. We're trying to crack the facade. Once people see the footage, hear Damien's side, see how easily the elders were willing to butcher a human asset for convenience. You're banking a lot on outrage, she said. What else do we have? Justin asked simply. She couldn't argue with that. Justin left to coordinate with Rhea and the others, to talk contingencies and backup approaches. He moved, with quick, efficient energy, already 10 steps ahead, already turning ideas into routes and signals and fallback points. Damien stayed. Silence pooled in the cabin after the door shut behind his brother. Julia busied herself checking her gear. It was a pointless exercise. They'd already agreed she couldn't take most of it in, but habits were comforting. Blade, gun, darts, backup knife in her boot, lockpicks in her sleeve seam. You're shaking again, Damien said quietly. She froze, then looked down. Her hands were trembling. Adrenaline, she said. Bond, he countered. She slammed her knife back into its sheath harder than necessary. Stop saying that like it explains everything. It explains why you're still here, he said, Anyone else would have walked out of this forest and never looked back the second they found out who I was. Anyone else isn't me, she said. Exactly. He pushed off the wall and crossed the cabin. He moved carefully, like he was approaching a wild animal, giving her space to bolt, but not leaving himself too far if she fell. Don't, she said as he got closer. Don't what? Look at me like you're afraid I'll break if you breathe too hard. He huffed out a laugh. You're the least breakable human I've ever met. Then why do you keep hovering? Because, he said, voice roughening. Every time I look away, my brain starts telling me you're a hallucination. Lucky for you, she said. I'm very real. Unlucky, he murmured. Means I can't wake up from this. His hand lifted, hovered near her cheek, then dropped. You don't want this? He said. None of it. You didn't ask for the bond. You definitely didn't ask for my screwed-up pack politics. If you want out, you say the word. I'll figure something else out. She stared at him. You really think you can cut this? She said, tapping her chest. Without consequences? His eyes darkened. I'll take the consequences. What if I don't want you to? It slipped out before she could stop it. Damien stilled. The air between them crackled. You don't know me, he said again, soft. And you don't know me, she answered. But something out there decided our lives were already tangled, whether we like it or not. I can either pretend that isn't true and let the council use me, or I can lean into it and use them. You're terrifying, he said. Good. Maybe that'll balance out how terrifying you are. He laughed, a short, surprised sound that loosened something in his face. You keep doing that, she said. Doing what? Laughing like you forgot you knew how. He looked at her like she'd punched him in the chest. Julia, he said. She swallowed. What? If we survive this, he said, you're going to have to decide what to do with both of us. Her heart thudded. Both. Justin. And me, he said. We're not normal wolves. The bond between us is old, stronger than most brothers. Now you're woven into it. I don't know how this is supposed to work. I only know I'd rather rip my own heart out than tear you between us. That's graphic, she said faintly. I'm trying to be honest. She thought of Justin's cool eyes, the way his scent had hit her like frost and fire, the way her body had recognized him with the same bone-deep certainty it had recognized Damien. I don't know what I'm going to do, she admitted. I barely know what I am anymore, but I'm not choosing anything while we're still bleeding. He nodded slowly. Fair. Focus on staying alive, she said. We can worry about who I kiss later. Color flared high on his cheekbones. Is that on the table? Survival first, Kade, she said. Everything else is dessert. He smiled then, crooked, dangerous, heartbreakingly real. I'll hold you to that, Hunter. She didn't say she wanted him to. Outside, the forest wind shifted. Somewhere far above, the moon slid behind a bank of clouds, hiding its face as two wolves and one human sat in a wooden cabin and plotted treason against a council that thought it owned them. The night was going to get a lot darker before dawn, and Julia, for the first time in years, wasn't sure if she was the hunter or the hunted. Maybe, she thought as Damien's presence brushed warm against the edge of her mind, she was finally something else, entirely. The end.